campus of the Mount Zion Baptist Church of Kalamazoo, Michigan, welcome to Celebrating Black Excellence. With your hosts, the conscious of Kalamazoo, Brother Buddy Hannah, and the pastor of the Mount Zion Baptist Church, Dr. Addis Moore.
We are excited to be back once again on another installment of Celebrating Black Excellence. This show is gaining momentum. You've tuned in, and we would want you to now, we need you to share this broadcast. We need you to text somebody, call somebody, let them know Black Excellence is on the air, and you don't want to miss this segment. Buddy, welcome back. It's another Thursday night, and we're ready now to celebrate Black Excellence. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Pastor. We're happy to be back here once again with you as well. And as the pastor said, this show has gained momentum. People are talking about it. People are being involved. People are sending in questions. And we feel that you will be inspired tonight and that you will take away something positive from this program. And we're happy to have the two guests that we have tonight. So we want you to, like the pastor said, tell your friends about it. Hey, tell your enemies about it if they'll listen. But we want you to tune in. So,
thank you, buddy. Share with everyone. Let them know that we're here, and we guarantee you tonight, buddy. We've got a couple of guests tonight. I guarantee you, our audience, they're going to be surprised. They're going to be inspired. They're going to be motivated. They're going to have all kinds of questions because you're going to want to know some things about our two guests. And I'm excited, buddy, tonight. Because one of these guests I've been trying to get in touch with since 1906, Sid.
I hear you.
but we're here tonight, and that just speaks to what is happening in our African American Black community. Individuals are doing phenomenal things, are making a tremendous difference, buddy, in our community.
Exactly, and I think that you were right when you're saying that these are two exciting guests. And, you said you've been trying to get in one of these guests. I communicated with one of them myself through emails and everything, and I'm finally glad to meet her, So I kept telling her, well, if we don't get you this time, we're going to get you. So we finally got it, and we're happy to have her here.
One thing about it, we're tenacious. And so if you're out there and you're doing some phenomenal work, we want to talk to you. We want to highlight you. We want to celebrate you. It's all about celebrating Black excellence, individuals that are doing phenomenal things in spite of racism, in spite of setbacks, in spite of challenges, still are rising to the top and making phenomenal difference in our community. And, buddy, I'm excited. Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Who we got, buddy? Who we got?
We're happy to say that tonight we have Nicole R. Triplett, LLP and LPC. She is a psychologist, entrepreneur, business mentor, and winemaker.
Wait a minute, buddy. Can you say it again?
Got to go back.
You need to get that. You need to. They need to know who we have.
We got to go back.
Okay, go back, buddy.
Dr. Nicole R. Triplett, okay? Psychologist, entrepreneur, business manager, and winemaker, okay? Dr. Nicole R. Triplett. Later on, she'll tell y'all what that R stands for, but I won't get into that right now. Also, we have with us my friend, my buddy, I don't know, whatever, all kinds of stuff. But one of my closest friends, I'm happy to have him here tonight. This man has done a whole lot of things in the community and continue to serve in the community and do good things. We have with us Sidney Ellis. Everybody know him as Sid Ellis, and he is the executive director of the Douglas Community Association, and he is here with us tonight. So we're going to have a wonderful show.
And this, Sid, wherever anything is going on in the community, you can find his print there. Yep. Because he's involved with our community, and we're excited to have this brother here. And he's looking good tonight. He stepped in with this. Can you get the camera on him again? Can you show that tie he got on? Look at.
Hi there.
Brother looked like he just stepped out of the nation of Islam.
Man, I thought he was going to the prom when he came in. So
I thought he was going to have some of that whiting fish in Muhammad Speak.
Bean pie, actually.
Very
Oh,
clean,
don't forget
very
the
clean.
bean pie. Yes, yes.
Very clean. Very clean.
Very clean.
So, buddy, let's jump into it, man, because I know our audience. Look, we've given you a moment to share. Make sure you hit the like button, you hit the thumbs up button, give us some stars. Virtual audience, whatever platform are you on, make sure you share. Take a moment to share it now, because I promise you, tonight, you don't want to miss tonight. You don't want to miss the information and the inspiration that you're going to gain tonight. Because these guests, they have brought it, and they're going to bring it tonight, and you want to hear what they got to say. We've got, remember, and Nicole Triplett is from Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street. Remember what that is, and that's in our area. We're going to hear about that tonight. Sidney, Ellis, Douglas, Frederick Douglass Community Association right here on the north side of Kalamazoo, making tremendous impact with our boys and girls and all over, and been for years just doing phenomenal things. So, buddy, let's get at it.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to start with Nicole. Nicole, you wear so many hats here, so we're going to have to talk about some of these things. Psychologist, entrepreneur, business mentor, winemaker. Tell us a little bit about each one of those and how you got started into each one of these adventures you are involved in.
Wow. Well, thank you all for having me. Sorry that it took so long. My pardons. So I'm Nicole Triplett. I have lived in the Kalamazoo area since I was 9 years old. So I do say that this is my town. I have been a psychologist since my late 20s, and I've had my private practice downtown for about 12 years. So I've been a business owner for quite some time now, just moving into different areas as far as Black Wall Street, which is actually a nonprofit that is positioned to uplift and to educate and to support specifically the Black entrepreneur in the Kalamazoo community. However, we do spread out with that education. And just here recently, I have taken another role, which is quite different. I have now entered the world of winemaking, which actually positioned me to be, well, I am the only female Black winemaker in the state of Michigan. So that's just a little bit about me and my journey.
Now, can you slow down a minute, Nicole, because I think I heard you say something that I need you to say again. You're the only female what in Michigan? Can you say that one more time? Can you tell our audience that? I just think that's significant. Can you?
I am the first and only African-American female winemaker in the state of Michigan.
It also, let's follow up on that a little bit. She didn't say she was the first Black female seller of wine.
Right.
She said wine maker. Tell us a little bit about this wine making part of it.
Well, I turn water into wine, but I'm definitely not. So I like to entertain, and I like to do things that bring people together. And wine was just something that I wanted to bring more to our culture, for it to be more approachable, for it to be more accessible. And I just started just making it for friends, just as gifts or at events that I would have. And it took on very well to the point where people would ask, like, do you have more of that, or do you sell that? And so, yeah, I do, which I did not. But I'll sell you anything because that's part of the entrepreneurship mindset, I believe, that is just in you. And so from there on, it started taking a life of its own. And I began to get licensed with very little overhead, ended up in local stores. Then I needed to have a space where people could come, purchase, taste the wine. So we opened Twine Urban Winery on Portage Street in Kalamazoo. So that's been doing really well. And we are positioned the end of October, to go on all 250 Myers in 5 different states.
Wow.
Wow. So you have your own label, your own brand and everything, and you say you're already in some of the stores?
Yeah, here locally, it's been about a year and a half that we've been in Harding's Park Street Market, Midtown Fresh, City Center Market, and about two other local like liquor stores like J&B Liquor and stores like that.
And you said the end of October, you'll be in all 250 miles
Yes, sir.
here in.
Wow.
All right.
Well, I think that's awesome. Now, Nicole, while we're with you, this whole idea about Black Wall Street, that intrigues me. I'm excited about that. And I'm inspired just by Black Wall Street, knowing where that initiated from. What was the inspiration for you to actually form and start that here in Kalamazoo? Can you talk about that?
Sure. I started to notice that in our community, we had so many people with so much talent. And talent can often bring us a profit. And I just think that as African Americans in general, we do have special gifts and special talents that can fuel our livelihood. And I thought, well, if there was a place where if you wanted to help bring generational wealth to your own community, because that is a deficit that we have in the Black community, is generational wealth. Well, how could you support a Black entrepreneur? How could you help someone to begin to fund their dreams? How could you find those people? So we just started I started a group on Facebook, Black Wall Street Kalamazoo, just purely so that you would be able to identify and be able to locate if you would like to receive services from someone that looked like yourself. And so that story just kind of played out to where we started to understand more about what we needed to do to educate and support these entrepreneurs to bring them into the full fulfillment of their journey as a business owner. Like, this can go from a side hustle or a hobby to actually being your business. And so we started to form education and structure around just that notion and that idea.
Wow, man,
That's powerful.
that is really powerful. I did have one question in terms of the Black Wall Street, since we were talking about that. What exactly is the Black Business Boot Camp?
So we provide educational services because we want to make sure that Black businesses can perform at the levels and expectations. And sometimes it would be just because you purely don't know that structure or you don't have that information. So the Black Business Boot Camp is something that we put on every year, and we help to bring speakers and experts in certain areas, such as marketing, financial, so different areas in your business planning. And so we invite at a very low cost and sometimes free for those entrepreneurs to take part in those trainings so that we can make sure that we're fully equipping them to go out and to have a successful and thriving business.
And since we're all that, I'm going to come on. I'm like the pastor. I'm fascinated about the Black Wall Street. You also do the Black Business Expo, which has grown
Yes.
over the years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with that idea of how can you identify, we wanted to make sure that you could come at least once a year and shop the biggest Black experience that you could have. And so we've started out, this would be our third year. We did not have it last year because of COVID. So you could go and shop and meet the business owners. You could network. So you get some very unique experiences, and just to collaborate with the community and be together and with like-minded individuals and just be inspired, knowing where you could go and knowing the services that are provided in our community if you didn't know before. So just that sense of community and collaboration is one of the founding concepts of Black Wall Street Kalamazoo.
Very good, very good. Brother Sid, How you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, all right. Let's talk a little bit about you. You are currently the executive director of the Frederick Douglass Community Association, but you've also had other positions in town that you've served as the executive director of the Black Arts and Culture Center. I think you was community director for the YMCA?
Fund developer.
Fund developer.
Fundraiser.
You know, you've been involved in all types of community cultural things. You serve as a middle school mentor for youth, and you're just involved in a little thing. Tell us a little bit about your how you got involved in the community service part of all of this, because you are a community servant. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I came here in the early 80s, and I knew that I just love being downtown in downtown Kalamazoo. I started at Kalamazoo Valley Community College and then matriculated to Western Michigan University. But during that time, it was very easy for me to loosen myself from just being a college student, but try to get involved with the community. And this is a crazy story, but I'm going to tell it because you asked. So I was watching the movie The Mac, and many people who are of my age and older remember that movie. Tripped out, I told you. But the thing was, so what I realized about that particular character was that he took charge of his life and decided to do something. And so with that in mind, I took charge of my life and just started to do something. And so I started just going out to various churches, various organizations, and seeing what they were doing, and actually decided, okay, I'm just going to inundate myself in the community. But it all started with my pastor, Pastor Joel Brooks, and this was before the MAC, but this is all part of it. And so I went to him like, I'm a leader, I should be running something, and I'm here to run something. And he was like, oh, okay, that's great. Well, the leaders here start out serving. And I was like, okay, thank you very much, because I'm not serving nowhere. And then, you know, but I was young in Christ in terms of trying to find myself in the Lord. And so in any case, I decided, all right, if I want to be a leader, I do need to be a servant. So I went back to him and said, okay, I'm ready to serve. Where would you like me to serve? And they said, we need some people in the children's ministry. And so I became an assistant in the children's ministry and just started serving. And so what I meant by the thing with the situation with the MAC was that I was just serving in my church. And so I decided to start serving in the community. So wherever there was a need, I served. If there was a need, I served. Mentoring, I served. Black Arts and Cultural Center, helping clean up, I served. So in a variety of different areas here in Kalamazoo, I just started serving. And from that serving, they started asking me to lead. And so I would serve, then lead, serve, then lead, serve, then lead. And so that's how I started getting involved in a lot of different things. So I started doing, in my church, I was assistant to the children's pastor, and so I started doing a clown ministry. We didn't have a clown ministry, so I became a clown. We talked about doing puppetry, and we went to some conferences and learned how to do puppetry. So I started producing children doing puppetry. And a sister who was part of our church, but a good friend also, she was a storyteller in town here. Her name is Miss Nettie. She is passed, God rest her soul, of course, but she kept encouraging me that I was a storyteller and that I could tell stories and do puppetry and get paid for it. And so it took me about 1.5 years to really believe her. And so once I did, I became a storyteller and a puppeteer, and I started touring around the state making money doing it. I started acting, and I was doing a lot of acting here in town in various theaters. I started directing, I started writing, and at our church there was a video ministry, and so I served in the video ministry. And the way I served was driving the van to pick up the equipment. So Sunday morning, get the van, pick up the equipment, bring it back, and I was just serving, just dropping it off and things like that. And then I decided, okay, maybe I should start really doing something. And so at that time, now it's called the Public Media Network, and so I started my own television show there, and it was called Try God's Love. I did that for many years, and then eventually became the video producer for my church, a Christian Life Center, now Stones Church. But it all started with serving. And so now with the various things that I've done, like you said, the Black Arts and Cultural Center, being the executive director there, and then a fund development person at the YMCA. But one of the main things that I feel that I do is I'm a connector. I connect people to people, people to organizations, and organizations to people. And so I'm known around town, so people just call me, ask me questions, who can they get connected with, and I connect them. And so that's how I really got to know a lot of people, not just serving, but helping connect people.
Say that's a phenomenal story, man, and phenomenal, and thank God for that. Can you tell me, though, I mean, what has pushed you to continue to do that? Because you made a statement that I really want to take charge of my life, and you saw this movie, but what drives you? Because you're involved, and you flow in just about any circle. I've seen you do that quite well. So what drives you?
What drives me is when I see a need, if I can be a part of helping fulfill that or answer that question or answer that need, I try to push to do it. And so whatever that is, and it's not a lot of things, but especially with youth. And so when I see a need for youth, I try to get involved with it. And so if there's things going on around town, I go to those meetings, I go to those events, and try to help support the youth. I've been involved with the NAACP Assoc program, which is set up for youth who don't necessarily play sports, but they have what they call an Olympics. And so whether it's writing, acting, electronics, mathematics, performing fine arts, students can get involved with the Assoc program. So I started helping with those types of things as well. So what drives me is that when I see a need that I can help with, I push towards doing it. And so even the funny thing that when you say what drives you, so when I first started acting, when I was in high school, I went to Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan. Yeah, Cass Tech. So in any case, we had a theater program, but I was not involved in a theater program. I was involved in architecture or design. And so I never thought about acting. I never thought about writing, directing, or anything like that. I didn't even feel good about myself to do something like that. And so after I gave my life to Christ, I went to see a play called The Raisin in the Sun, and I thought if they could do it, I can do it. And so I took all the information back home about auditioning. So when the first auditions happened, I was there. So any and every audition, except for musicals, I don't sing. People will tell you that. In any case, except for musicals, I was in every play almost for the next 6 to 8 years, trying to get involved in that. Now, so getting back to what drives me or what pushed me. So for about 4 years, I was just doing it. I was just acting. I was just on stage. And I kid you not, one day I looked in the mirror and I saw what I used to think was a flaw on myself. And it was as if God just took it away from me. It was as if he took all my fears and doubts away, and I was able to just get on stage and do it. And I realized that, you know, with God's power, I can do anything. And so that's what really drives me.
One of the things that you said something, because for the ones that don't know it, you went to see a movie called Raisin in the Sun. Now, that was a black movie.
Yeah, but
right?
It was a play. It was an actual play
by
that
black.
was done by blacks.
Okay.
It was written by a black woman, and it was acted by black people. And at that time, directed by a black director.
And you said if they could do it, it's because you saw somebody that looked like you.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do here. We really want to inspire folk, individuals that look like you, that it can be done. And so Sid, now you have become an example to others because they see you and they want to do it because of what you do. One other question before we leave you, Sid. The Douglas Community Association, Frederick Douglass Community Association, we know all the negative type talk about youth and whatever. What do you see potential that our youth have, and you know, because you're actually involved in their lives to help them get to their best life. So what do you see in our children? The positive things do you see in our children?
Well, there's a lot of positive things that I see in our youth. They're eager to do things. They're eager to get involved. I think that the pandemic has really hindered a lot of them from doing that. So even at the Douglas Association, we don't get as many youth as we used to. But at the same time, when I see the youth come in, they come in ready. They come in with good attitudes, good personalities. I think the one thing that drives me in terms of my relationship with youth, I don't let them walk by me. I stop, I talk to them, I shake their hand, I look them in the face, I look them in the eye. If it's young ladies, I say, hello, how you doing? Same thing, look her in the eye, try to get involved with them for just a minute. And so I think that encourages the youth because then they know that somebody cares. When we just walk by a youth, they think you don't care. And so what I see young people who want somebody to care, young people who want something to do, and young people who can do some things if we just let them do it.
That's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Nicole, we're going to jump back over to you. All of these things that you're involved in, these businesses you started, organizations, even your psychologist practice, what are some of the roadblocks that you've had to overcome to get to where you are? You know, I mean, I know it wasn't easy, and being black and being female, it may have been a little bit even harder. So what are some of the roadblocks that you faced pursuing all of this?
I think that one of the biggest roadblocks would be your connectedness to other people, because I think a lot of things have to do with who you know and who knows you. And so I think getting into those doors is a hurdle. It's not impossible, but getting into those doors at first, because you have to first get to the table in order to be taken seriously. And then when you get to the table, there's still limits that they're going to allow you to do because of the color of your skin or your gender. So you just have to continually show up, and you have to make sure you're prepared, educate yourself, and just continuously, like I said, just show up until they cannot deny you.
We do have a question in right quick that's came in, and it says, is there a listing or directory of area black businesses?
Yes, it's blackwallstreetkalamazoo.org. And if you go to that first page, you can type in what you're looking for. If you're looking for an electrician, you can type in that, and it'll bring up those businesses. And if you just would like to generally scroll, you can do that as well.
It's tell them again.
blackwallstreetkalamazoo.org.
Now, let's do a little bit more education, because there's a comment here. Someone said, this is my first hearing about Black Wall Street. So can you tell where that term came from and a little bit more about it for the individuals that's hearing about this for first time? Can you do that, Nicole?
So if you go to Black Wall Street Kalamazoo on Facebook, that is where the community currently is for our community. And there are about 9,000 members. So I'm sorry that we haven't done, I guess, a good enough job getting that word out there.
No, we're getting it out tonight.
Yes, so tonight is going to help. We were I was just thinking about just businesses, and what if we were to have a community of just black-owned businesses where you could start your own resources and you could share amongst each other. So we kind of obviously took the story from Oklahoma that we all know, and I kind of built up on that concept to say, let's kind of bring some of that back, hopefully in a time and in a way that it could not be destroyed physically, because a lot of what we're doing now is online, and we are more free to have these businesses. If we can just get that capital, these things should not and will not be able to be taken away from us.
All right.
Right. And you know, I think, and I'm sure that this tied in with it in terms of when we talk about Black Wall Street, we also want to mention the fact that originally Black Wall Street we had in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Did this inspire you somewhat? Do you know where, did you look at this and say, hey, I want to do something about it because of the history behind it? Are you familiar with the history behind it?
Yes, that's what that is. So sometimes history for me is something that I don't want to, I fear that they will try to have repeat. So a lot of times I try to I took just the concept of how it could relate to current today. Mm-hmm. So I don't like to take away from what happened, but I also, those type of, just speaking, I believe a lot about speaking things into existence. So yes, like I was saying earlier, I definitely took the physical aspects and thought we could start building on just a community of Black businesses. Mm-hmm.
And it's good that you mentioned that. So for the people out there that don't know, and we're definitely going to emphasize this, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was just a community of Black businesses. Some of the richest Black people in the country. They had all kinds of businesses, doctors, lawyers, you name it. It was a whole city of Black entrepreneurs. And I think that's the part that you pull from. We're aware of what happened in terms of the race riot and all of this stuff because of how the white people saw all the progress they was making. And then they began to, we had the big race riot where they killed so many people. But I like what you're saying in terms of you build upon what they was doing with the businesses. And that was the whole thing. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, that particular area was just, it was Black Wall Street. So I like what you was doing. And if you get a chance, there is a documentary on PBS, and I think it may be use Netflix for something besides some of them other programs, okay? But there's a documentary on Netflix. There's one on PBS that is very informative about Black Wall Street and in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what it meant. But you pull from the business aspect and from that, and I think that was a wonderful thing. So for those of you who don't know what Black Wall Street, look it up, but also remember that, yes, we could go into a whole lot of detail as to what happened with the race riot and all that, but the main thing is what Nicole said, is what they was doing as entrepreneurs and the businesses that they had and the progress they was making of being self-sufficient and stuff like that. So,
before we get to Sid, look, particularly with that last comment that this is the first time I've heard about it, make sure you share. Make sure you text, call somebody, because once again, we share that you were going to be inspired. Now you're getting the information because you really need to hear what's going on here tonight. Send your questions in, respond to us, and we've got an individual here that's ready to answer your questions.
All right. Sid, there was a comment that said, youth are just as creative and diverse as adults. You agree with that?
I totally agree with that, and that's something it's being seen around town everywhere. So, like I said, I was part of, or have been part of, the Assoc program through the NAACP, and it never fails. After the program is over with, I start finding other youth who are doing creative things. And so, let's talk about the issue about people not knowing about Black Wall Street. Part of it is because we're not talking it up. Yeah. So we got to talk it up a lot more. So if you know about it, you got to talk about it. And so the same thing with our youth. If you know our youth are out there doing some things, you got to pump them up. I'm just going to say it. If you go to a football game or a basketball game, Kalamazoo Central versus Laurie Norris, it's packed. But if you go to something else, most people don't know that at the same time that Kalamazoo Central High School was winning the basketball championship, the state championship, their mock trial team was doing the same. And their mock trial team was made up of some young African-American students. And so things like that, I remember the parade when the basketball team won. And I was looking for the mock trial team to be in that parade as well, but they weren't. Now, that's not a knock against the basketball team, of course, but what I'm saying is, why weren't we pumping up those kids who are in that mock trial team? Why don't we pump up the kids who are doing things outside of sports? We do have a lot of creative students here. Here at Mount Zion, every year there's an oratorical, what do you say?
Oratorical contest.
Oratorical contest. And I've been to it once or twice, and these kids are slamming. They are bad. I mean, they're intelligent, they can speak, they can run the stage, they know how to have stage presence. And so we've got a lot of students here in Kalamazoo that are doing a lot of things. And so the only way they're gonna get pumped up is if we pump them up. I know a lot of times we put a lot of things on Facebook, but we gotta go beyond that.
Sid, we asked Nicole, what about you with the different hats you've worn and the different things you've done and even what you're doing now? What are some challenges that you've had to overcome and some obstacles that you had to weather to be where you are and who you are right now?
So the interesting thing with that is, like I said, God blinded me to a lot of stuff. So I just did it. I mean, there may have been roadblocks, but I didn't see them. I just pushed through and I just did it. Then I would look back and say, oh, that's what that person was saying. They were actually cracking on me. Or they were actually, and so, but really, it was crazy. I mean, I just pushed through and I just kept doing it. It just kept doing it. And one of the things that, in terms of race, so coming from Detroit, it was a little bit different for me in terms of, me and Buddy was talking about this earlier. In Detroit, I hung out downtown all the time. My high school, Cass Technical High School, was downtown Detroit. And so when we would have a half day, we'd go out and hang out around those big businesses, restaurants, the hotel, the Renaissance. We'd go hang out there. And it was just natural for me to walk through the city of downtown Detroit and with no hesitation. And so when I came to Kalamazoo, I just did the same thing. Now, I didn't know there was issues with black people going to downtown Kalamazoo. I didn't know there was friction there. So I would just go in the shops. I would just do whatever I wanted to do. And so I had to start noticing things, that white people would sometimes be looking at me strange or whatever. But I didn't care. I got money to spend in the store just as much as anybody else. And so I really just pushed through a lot of things. And so some of those times there were things happening that I didn't know was happening. But the best part of things happening here in Kalamazoo for me was the relationships that I gained and the mentors that I watched and followed. And so a lot of times I would go to them and talk to them about things, and what would they do? They'd connect me to other people. And so I think that the roadblocks that happen sometimes, and I'm just gonna say this, even outside of the racial situation, sometimes you get roadblocks by African Americans. And so, even being in at the Black Arts and Cultural Center and here now at the Douglas Community Association, I ran into some situations that I'm like, you're supposed to be here to help me. We're supposed to be here to help each other. And so I've run into situations with some African Americans that have not wanted to work with me for a variety of different reasons. And a lot of times, some of it is because I'm trying to do things the right way. I want to be there on time. If we say we're starting at 7 o'clock, I'm starting at 7 o'clock. If we say we're starting at 6, I'm going to start at 6. I'm going to be there early. I've always learned to if you are on time, you're late. So you got to be there early. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're just late. And so I've had to push through a lot of that. But in terms of just being able to just stand on my own, it was never on my own. It was because I had other people with me. Buddy Hannah is one of them. We've been friends for over 30 years. I don't even know how many years, but we've been buddies for that long. And having that relationship and having somebody to hang with and to be with and to be creative with. A lot of people think me and Buddy hang out all the time. We actually don't. But we're great friends. We're always there for each other. And when somebody's doing something creatively, we're there to support each other. So having men and women like that around my life has really strengthened me to walk through obstacles that I may not even know I had.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, Sid, because we have done that, and I've watched you. I think we have pushed each other, so to speak. And I've learned a lot from you, and you may have learned a little bit from me, but together I think we have done some things and grown as human beings, so I appreciate that. One thing, Nicole, I have a question for you that came in, but I just want to emphasize again about this Black Wall Street, because it's so important. If you've heard of Wall Street in New York, you know that that's where all the wealth is.
Yes.
That's where all the wealth is in this country. That's where the stock exchange, that's where people do business. Money flows on Wall Street. And for anything to be compared to Wall Street means they had money in Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It means that she mentioned something about that
generational wealth, man.
Generational wealth. That's the key right there.
That's the key.
That's where the Black Wall Street compared that to wealth. So I just wanted to throw that in, and I know that you probably already have explained that to people. But I do have a question here. Would Nicole elaborate on her psychology degree and how she was able to open her own practice in psychology?
So I did get my undergrad and graduate education at Western Michigan University. And the first step that I took was to obviously get my licensing, which involves an internship for about 2 years. And I did that under a person that was in a private practice, that owned a private practice. So I was able to stay there, learn the ins and outs, and we can go back to this sense of collaboration and being connected with people and developing those relationships, because those relationships have come full circle so many different times. So I was able to build off of those relationships that I had in order to move that client base over to my own practice. So just being there under leadership, learning, and doing the paperwork, answering the phones when I had to. So doing all those things that weren't actually seeing clients under someone first helped me build those relationships and that knowledge. So, I've owned it for 12 years now. So I think that you have to make sure that you're developing those relationships on the way in. To whatever you're doing. And when when you talk about collaboration and community, those are one of the two founding things of Black Wall Street. Because I think when we were talking with Sid, you have to have those relationships. And I think in our community, we were kind of taught, like, don't tell your business, or somebody's trying to do the same business as me. We're not taught to work together. In all other cultures, they build off of each other and they help each other. And so I think that is where we're trying to say, hey, everybody come together, try to collaborate. You come to my event, I'll come to yours next week, So I find that so many of us are coming together to the same events. I'm donating to you, you donating back to me. I'm donating to you, you donating back to me. So, but I think eventually it's going to be we're going to be role models to say, look, this works. It works in the other communities. It can work for us too. And so to build that generational wealth, you have to collaborate with others. You have to serve under others and take that information as something to learn and take that collaboration as strength.
Buddy, the chat is heating up now.
Yes, it is.
Before we get to the chat, Nicole, talk about, because I did generational wealth and how important it is that the dollar stays in the community, turns over in the community. Can you talk about that as it relates to Black Wall Street and generational wealth and community wealth?
Okay. Let's see how good I can do. Well, I don't know if many of us know this, but the dollar circulates in the white community about 11 times before it ever has to go outside of that community. Hispanics are about four different times. We are the lowest. We are less than 1%. So
when we make $1 in our community, it hurries up and gets out.
Yes, we make the money, and then we have to directly spend it with another culture, with another community. So in that way, that's one way where it is making it impossible for us to generate generational wealth. It started way long ago when we were not able to start even gathering Social Security because we were not able to work for pay. So we were not able to be involved in the Social Security system. So we weren't able to put into the system. So when we were, actually allowed to be in the Social Security system. We hadn't put anything into it. So there wasn't much to come out of it. So then we move on to things like redlining, where this is where people really started gaining wealth. You had your Social Security that you could use to help buy properties, and we weren't allowed in certain areas where the property values were higher. And so we weren't able to take those properties, sell those, or pass them and get that wealth from that. So this goes back quite, that's why we say when we need reparations, we really are owed those reparations, because we were kept out of things that would have allowed us to accumulate the wealth. And so since we could not accumulate that wealth, we have no idea how to manage those finances once we do get those finances. So now, even those of us that started to gain that wealth, we had a lack of knowledge on how to manage those finances. So here we go again, right out the window. So I think that it's important to make sure that we are reinvested in ourselves, in our own community, so that we can give ourselves a chance, because we may never receive reparations. But if more athletes, instead of choosing, and I don't know that much about the colleges, but say if more athletes, especially in football, decided to go to HBCUs, that would help right there. But the system is set up to where you want to go where you have the best chance, where you're going to get the most playing time. So we can't build that wealth in those HBCUs like they do in the colleges and universities. So it's something that someone has to start first. It's something we have to start now, because we may never be given. So we've got to start with that education. We've got to start trying to shop with our own, and we're doing the best we can to try to educate. There's resources out there that we need to be able to take a part of, and so that we can start this process of gathering that generational wealth.
I think you kind of answered one of the questions, and you could expand a little bit more, but that last part you said, I think it came in. And the question is, why is it important to support Black businesses?
Because if we don't support Black businesses, then we cannot keep the dollar in our community. We cannot put that dollar into that family that can then, with the proper education, invest that into
Well said.
their home, their families, and then pass that down to their children. So if we never start to do that, then there is nothing to pass down, so we will never generate generational wealth. It'll always be someone starting the wealth, someone starting the wealth. There will never be a passing down if we don't support Black businesses. And we just got to have more confidence in the businesses. So that's what we try to do, is to make sure we get some education out there so that you can feel safe to shop. Because just because you're Black, no, I'm not going to keep giving you my money. Even though I will say we do take ourselves to these McDonald's and all these other places, and they can mess up your order 12 times, and we'll be right back next week. So, but you know, just because you're Black, no, you don't want to just continue to take money and not be providing a good service.
Okay, there's some questions for both of you. Start with you, Sid. How do you address roadblocks?
So the way to address a roadblock is to recognize what you can do about it and recognize who else can assist you with what you can do about it. You don't always have to go through things alone. And a lot of times I think that when we look at a roadblock, we're looking at it in our own power, okay, first of all. And second of all, you know you have the power of God, so that's first. But the other thing is you have relationships with other people to help you get through those roadblocks. Like Nicole said, educate yourself on various things. One of the things that I do, I don't meet a stranger. I always meet a friend. And so I work a room. So one of the things that Dr. Moore was talking about, that I'm everywhere, because that's how I get connected. And when I get in there, I work that room. I try to meet as many people as I can. Hi, I don't know your name. My name is Sid Ellis. Boom. And so I get connected with a lot of people who can assist me with breaking through those roadblocks.
Nicole?
You know, I think it's a lot about how you think about roadblocks, because to me, a roadblock means it's a detour, or it wasn't the right time, this wasn't the right person, I didn't go about this using the right process. So what's the alternative? And you know, if you work hard enough, if you don't let anyone outwork you, you can roll through the roadblock if you really are just that, you know, tenacious about achieving that goal. So I think that just means to me that, okay, this wasn't the right timing. This wasn't the way that it was meant to occur for me. So what's the next step? Who else do I need to talk to? What else do I need to learn? What caused that roadblock to be there? And so I think it's a lot about, for me, I don't, you know, not taking no, just saying it's not the right time, or that wasn't the way to go about that, or I need a little more information. But I would say to just keep at it until you achieve it.
Good. Sid, I think this might be more in your directed to you. They didn't say exactly, but the question is, are you familiar with any community-based rites of passage programs for adolescent black young men in Kalamazoo?
Okay, so there's a young man, and his name is, I had to think hard about it because you just threw me for a loop. And so there is some. And before this night is over, I'm going to remember that name. But there's several, so there's a couple. Oh, so there's Men of Promise.
Purpose.
Men of Purpose, yep, Men of Purpose. And then there's 2 or 3 other ones. It's just, I have CRS, can't remember stuff.
With the Fatherhood Network?
The Fatherhood Network is more for adult males, but Men of Purpose is a good one. I'm glad that pulled up from you, Nicole. And so Men of Purpose is one, and that is, you know, some of this information, if you contact me at SELLIS@douglascommunity.org, I can get that information to you. And Douglas has 2 S's. SELLIS@douglascommunityassociation.org. There are several rites of passage programs for young men that we can get that information to you for.
Sounds good. Nicole, I guess, speaking of rites of passage, is there anything that Black Wall Street is doing with youth to encourage them to go into business, to become entrepreneur? Because, you know, a lot of times, we spend a lot of times encouraging, go to college, get an education. Sometimes we don't spend that much time saying, open your own business, start your own business, blah, blah.
Amen.
Is there anything that Black Wall Street is involved with in terms of encouraging youth to pursue entrepreneurship?
So Black Wall Street, what we do is we collaborate with the other businesses that are already, with the other organizations that are already in the trenches with the youth. So we do support them. We have allowed them into our beta program, which is the Black Entrepreneur Training Academy. We just had the first cohort of that, and we did have an entrepreneur that was a teenager in that. So she received all the education and the grant funds that the adults did. And then we partner with Sisters in Business. Sisters in Business has a Little Sisters in Business program. And there is one other, and I cannot think of her name. But we try to support those that are already doing that work and are already connected. So we want to stress that collaboration piece. And if I think of her name, then I will, because now I can't think of the name of the organization. But there are specific organizations that are already connected and doing those work. So what we do is we try to make sure that those organizations have what they need to succeed.
Okay, we've got about 7 minutes, buddy. We're just about entering our roundup round. Comments, Brother Sid and Sister Nicole. This is so like 15 zeros, exciting and inspiring. Thank God for the both of you and others, and the others are inspiring. Hello, Pastor Boy and Buddy Hannah.
Hello.
Lots of hearts. This is good. Great comments.
Soul confidence is the youth.
Female youth, yeah.
Female youth.
Yeah.
She told us.
Confident soul.
That's it.
Confident soul.
Okay, buddy, closing. What's our closing questions? What we got for both of them? Okay.
You know, well, you know, the thing is, they both are those high energy people.
I know.
So they want to both take over the show in a way, but they ain't quite said it like
But
that.
now we just got 6 minutes. They can't take it
No,
over.
they can't take over the show. This is one last question, and you got to make it quick, Nicole. It said, thank you for your answer. Can you share what degree and license requirement are required for being able to have a private practice as a psychologist?
You can have a private practice if you're a master's of social work, a licensed professional counselor, a marriage and family therapist, a limited licensed psychologist, a fully licensed psychologist would require a PhD. So you at least want to be master's level at whatever social work field that you are in or are in, a master's level.
As Pastor said, we only got about 5 minutes, and he getting ready to tell you what you need to do in those 5 minutes.
No, we need to look in the camera because we need you to talk. This is opportunity because we want to inspire, encourage, and motivate blacks because you are doing phenomenal things. You're doing phenomenal things and because you are black, not in spite, because you're black. And in the culture we're having, because I don't think a lot of things will ever go away, but we've got to make it and do it anyway. So what would you say to black folk that's watching, and what would you say to white people? So Nicole and then Sid.
I would say to come together, learn from each other, step out of your comfort zone, and be around people and amongst crowds that you would typically not interact with. That is the way we are going to move through a lot of this. Be there for one another. We cannot make it without our counterparts that aren't in our other culture. It drives us if you are there to support us. It helps us to push the agenda forward, and it will give you purpose. So step out of your comfort zones, do something you would not typically do, have relationships with someone that you might not typically have a relationship with, and we're going to make it together.
Sid?
And I would add to that by saying you have to recognize that if you want to do something, you are an eagle, and you cannot be hanging around Daffy Ducks. So you got to loose those Daffy Ducks and soar with eagles. If you want to know about business, you got to find Nicole Triplett and get connected to her, because some of those people that you hanging out with, they ain't doing nothing. I'm just going to say it plain and simple. Stop hanging out with Daffy Ducks if you want to soar with eagles. And you can do it. That's the one thing that you have to recognize. If you see it and you want it, you can do it. One of the things that Nicole said earlier is that, what is the roadblock? How do I get around it? What do I need to push through it? Well, the first thing you got to do is stand, take a step, and do it. So if you see something that you want to do, try it. And a lot of times we don't try things because of the people that we're hanging out with. Loose those Daffy Ducks.
Before we leave, you said Douglas, Frederick Douglass Community Association, over 100 years old in Kalamazoo. Tell us a little about that and how we can support the Frederick Douglass Community Association.
Thank you. You can support the Douglass Community Association, Frederick Douglass Community Association, by going to dcakalamazoo.com. And we have a donate button at dcakalamazoo.com. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our office is open. We have a variety of different organizations that are inside the building that can help you do a lot of things. The Kalamazoo Public Library, the Alma Powell Library is there, the NAACP is there, Michigan Works is there, the Helen Fox Gospel Music Center is there, and various others that are there. And so you can come out and just visit us. We'll give you a tour. We'll let you know what's going on at the Douglass, and you can help support us physically or financially. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and all social media. Thank you.
One other thing, Sid, what does it mean that this organization, black organization, is over 100 years old in Kalamazoo? What does that mean?
That means that the community has stood by the organization to make sure that it continues to stand. We originally started out as an organization that was there for black soldiers who were stationed in Battle Creek, who would come to Kalamazoo and didn't have anything to do or any place to go. Churches, barbershops, homes, they were able to do that, but no one collective place. And so The Douglas Community Association was started by people who wanted a place for black soldiers to go to. And then within those 100 years, we basically morphed into whatever the community needed. And so throughout this time, we've changed a lot of things. We've added things, we've subtracted things, but it was based on what the community needed at that time. And so we're here for community right now.
All right, thank you so very much. I gotta say this, and then Nicole, tell how we can get in touch with you and Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street has directly impacted 117 businesses, providing visibility through exposition and market spaces, assisted 17 businesses in securing relief funding through meeting online deadlines and applications, approximately 337 contacts since March, directly on filling out relief application, trained 40 black businesses through the Black Business Boot Camp, and she makes wine. Nicole.
You can get in contact with us at blackwallstreetkalamazoo.org. We do have a donation button. And it is important that you support us financially, but also physically. We do a lot of things behind the scenes to make sure that you're even aware of the grants and the programs. We make sure that you're aware of these things. So we make sure that those applications are looked at and they're not causing different roadblocks for black businesses, keeping you out of that. We meet with the governor, we meet with the politicians on both sides to try to make sure that those efforts are spread through our community and that there are any roadblocks that are being taken away. So it's very important that you show up physically as well as financially, blackwallstreetkalamazoo.org, and we also have a donation button. Thank you.
Well, hey, we want to thank both of you for being here. Sid, thank you very much. Nicole, thank you very much. And keep doing the good things that you're doing in our community. So, well, at this time, we always close the show by, one comment, very interesting and eye-opening, Nicole. That was the comment, okay? We always close the show by doing our report card. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I get to do it to you this time.
Okay,
so,
all right.
When it comes to our goal to inspire, how did we do?
Through the comments, I think it was inspired. I think we were inspiring. You agree? They agree. Okay.
All right. When it comes to in being informed, how did we do?
Individuals were saying, okay, this is the first time I heard about this, and they were asking questions about rites of passage and things. Yes, I think we did that.
And when it comes to the encourage, what do you say we did on that?
Oh man, I'm reading the comments, man. I feel encouragement all on the screen. Yes, they were encouraged.
And the last one, motivate. What did we do?
Man, I think folk are ready to do something now, particularly between, I almost said these two candidates, these two, I don't know where my mind, but these two individuals, I'm sure individuals have been inspired to really move. I see more black businesses. I see more individuals giving themselves in service and leadership for our community. So I think we did it.
I think so too, because the last comment said, thank you for all of this information. It's very helpful. You close us out.
Thank you so much for joining. It has been a pleasure tonight. And we thank God for Nicole Triplett, and we thank God for Sid Ellis that have come and to make this a phenomenal night. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for tuning in. This will continue to be in the clouds. So if you got a friend, a loved one, someone that missed it, and you got it, make sure you share and tell them to watch it so it's available for them. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Pray with me. God, we thank you now for your power, your privilege. We thank you now for what you do and how you do it and what the gifts and resources you provide for our community. We love you and honor you now. It's in the name of Jesus we do pray and ask all things. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.